We want to be able to look at a triad in any of its many modifications, open position, closed position, inversion, octave doublings, and to be able to identify it by a Roman numeral. That's one of the skills that we're going to be building. And let's actually start that process right now, and let me walk you through a couple of examples. And a lot of people starting out sometimes find it very useful to actually just write, as I have here, the triads, the 7 triads, and the Roman numerals of the scale right out, just so you have them for reference. So let's start with something that's pretty easy. Here we go. I'm going to write a chord right here. I'm going to write a G, a B, and a D. So this is a triad that is built on G. We know it's a triad because it's got a third followed by a fifth from the root. This is a triad built on G. And which scale degree is G? Well, G is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means this is going to be a 5 chord. And it just so happens if we look up here at our chart, we can see, oh yeah, okay, the 5 chord is right up here. Okay, that's easy enough. So let's make this a little bit more difficult. I'm going to give us a chord that is in inversion. So I'm going to give us a chord that's got a G and a B and an E. Okay. So what is the interval structure of this chord? Well, let's see. We have from the bottom note to the middle note, we have the interval of a third. From the bottom note to the top note, we have the interval of a sixth. We have that 6-3 interval structure. And what does that 6-3 interval structure tell us? That tells us that this is a first inversion chord. So that means the third is going to be on the bottom. Okay, so that's the third, which means the root is going to be a third below. So this, if G is the third, then the root is going to be E. So if we sort of collapse this chord into root position, it's going to look like this: E, G, B. Now we've rearranged this chord into root position. Okay, so we can positively identify E, G, B as a 3 chord. But remember, we don't want to lose the inversion, so let's go back to our original positioning, where the third is on the bottom. So here we go: G, B, and E. And so we know that this is in first inversion, so we have the 6-3 interval structure. We know that our nickname or our shortcut name gets rid of the 3, so we're gonna write an X there because that slash sometimes means something else. 3-6. This is now a 3-6 chord. Let's do another one that's a little bit more difficult. Let's add an inversion and something that's in open position. So I'm going to give us 3 notes here. Okay, great. So we see we've got an E, we've got a C, and we've got an A. Okay, so this is going to give us a little pause here to figure out how do we do this. Well, let's take this one step at a time. We can probably guess, since we have such wide intervals between the notes, we can probably guess that this is an open position. So let's start by trying to compact these notes into close position. So I'm going to keep my bottom note there just so I know what I'm able to figure out what the inversion is. Let me try bringing this A down an octave, and sometimes you have to do a little bit of trial and error as you're figuring out close position. Okay, but let me bring that A down, and let me keep this C right here. Okay, now we have the interval of a fourth followed by the interval of a sixth. Okay, that's a recognizable interval structure. That's 6, 4. That's the interval structure of a second inversion. So it looks like we have a second inversion triad here. So second inversion means that the fifth is on the bottom. That means that a fifth below the fifth is going to be our root. So what is a fifth below E? E, D, C, B, A. So A is actually the root of this chord. So this is, if A is the root, A is scale degree 6. So A means that this is going to be a 6, and since it's in second inversion, 6, 4 chord. There we go. We went through multiple steps to do that. And again, the more familiar we get with triads, the easier this is going to come. Once you get really familiar with triads, you won't even have to, you can sort of shortcut through these steps. You'll immediately see, oh, right, this is an A minor chord. Okay, I know an A minor is built on the 6th scale degree. Great, so this is a 6 chord, maybe a 6, 6 chord. But just as we're starting out, it's sometimes useful to go through and break it down step by step. And there's going to be a little bit of trial and error here. Another way, by the way, that we could approach the same chord is this. And this is maybe a little bit more direct approach, but it may be a useful way of thinking about it. What notes do I have here? I have an A, I have a C, and I have an E. I have an A, an E, and a C. Not in that order. Is there some way that I can rearrange those that A, that C, and the E to make it into a triad? And the answer is yes. I could go A, C, E, which is a 6 chord. Oops, sorry about that. Which is a 6 chord. Once I know that it's a 6 chord, I know that this E down here is the 5th of the chord. So that means if the 5th is on the bottom, this is going to be a 6, 6, 4 chord. So there's several ways you can get to the answer, and it's going to take a little bit of trial and error. This is a great thing to bring into a work session or an office hour to work on, because this is sort of one of the big conceptual leaps that we're going to make. And sometimes on your homework, you may, and in real life too, you may come across collections of notes. Let me see if I can create one right now. That are not triads at all. For instance, if I were to give you something like this. We have an E, we have an A, and we have an F. Is there any way that I could create a triad out of that E, that A, and that F? And the answer is, I can bring it into a closer position like this. I can compact these notes way, way down. But this is not a triad, and it never will be, even if I move it around here. It's an interesting chord, and a chord that hopefully, if we are able to, we'll get to later in the semester. But it is not a triad because we can't arrange those notes into the interval structure of a 3rd above the root, followed by a 5th above the root.